Anthony slammed the hospital door open with his shoulder, the fluorescent buzz overhead drilling into his skull like a hangover from hell. Nurses scattered like pigeons in Washington Square Park, their white coats flapping as he barreled down the sterile corridor, for pole rattling behind him like an accusation. Where is he? Ethan goddamn Hargrove. Room 412, now. His voice echoed off the linoleum, ragged from the intubation tube they'd yanked out an hour ago, but no one stopped him. They knew the story. The architect and his boyfriend, broadside by a drunk driver on the BQE, the kind of freak accident that made front-page fodder for the New York Post. Miracle survivors. The headlines would say tomorrow, but Anthony knew better. Miracles didn't come with amnesia stitched into their seams. He burst into the room, heart hammering like the pile drivers on the High Line construction site where Ethan had sketched his last masterpiece. A soaring glass pavilion that caught the sunset like a lover's sigh. There he was, Ethan, propped up in the bed, monitors beeping a monotonous lullaby, his dark hair matted with sweat, that chiseled jaw slack under the morphine haze. 5 years. 5 years of late-night drafting sessions in their Williamsburg loft, where Ethan's pencils danced across paper like his fingers on Anthony's skin. 5 years of brunches at Buttermilk Channel, stealing bites of Ethan's Eggs Benedict while plotting their future. A brownstone in Cobble Hill, maybe kids one day through surrogacy, the American dream repackaged for two men who'd fought tooth and nail for it. And now, Ethan's eyes cracked open, focusing on Anthony with the blank curiosity of a stranger appraising a barista's latte art. Who the hell are you? Ethan's voice was a gravel whisper, laced with the faint drawl of his Savannah roots that Anthony used to tease him about, calling him Southern Belle in steel-toed boots. But there was no recognition, no spark of that fire that had ignited over cheap IPAs at a queer architecture mixer in Chelsea. Just confusion, edged with the wariness of a man who'd woken up in a body that felt like a betrayal. Anthony's knees buckled. He gripped the bed rail, knuckles whitening. The room spinning like the carousel in Dumbo he'd promised Ethan they'd ride on their anniversary. It's me, babe. Anthony. You're Anthony. We were coming home from that client dinner in Midtown, the one for the Hudson Yards high-rise. You were humming that stupid Lumineers song, the one about love being a battlefield. His words tumbled out, frantic, as if volume alone could rebuild the bridges Ethan's brain had burned. A doctor hovered in the doorway, clipboard clutched like a shield, murmuring about retrograde amnesia, severe concussion, fragments of memory possibly returning in weeks, months, maybe never. Anthony didn't hear her. All he saw was Ethan's frown deepening, those blueprint eyes narrowing as if Anthony were just another flawed design in his portfolio. Look, man, I appreciate the concern, but I don't know you. Nurse, get security or something. This guy's freaking me out. Ethan's hand fumbled for the call button. His architect's fingers, long, precise, stained with ink, trembling like they did when he was hungover and forcing a sketch. Anthony staggered back, chest caving in, the beeps accelerating into a siren wail that drowned his sob. 5 years, evaporated. Their first kiss under the rainbow flags of pride in the village, sloppy and desperate after too many cosmos. The night Ethan proposed with a custom blueprint of their dream home, rolled like a scroll and tied with twine. The quiet mornings in bed, Ethan's head on Anthony's chest, listening to the subway rumble like a shared heartbeat. Gone. All of it poof like smoke from a construction fire. He fled the room, corridors blurring into a maze of regret. Outside, the November chill slapped his face. Thanksgiving lights already twinkling on brownstones, mocking the hollow in his gut. Anthony slumped against the ER curb, lighting a cigarette with shaking hands, the cherry glowing like a tiny accusation. He'd quit for Ethan 2 years ago, promised on the deck of the Staten Island ferry. But promises were paper now, easily torn. His phone buzzed. A text from their best friend, Mia, the fiery lesbian contractor who'd built half of Ethan's projects. He's awake. What happened? Anthony typed back, thumbs blurring. He doesn't know who I am. Doesn't want to. The weeks that followed were a slow demolition. Anthony crashed on Mia's couch in Bushwick, her loft smelling of sawdust and sage smudges, the kind she burned to ward off bad juju. She force-fed him takeout from the halal cart on Knickerbocker, her tattooed arms wrapping around him like rebar in concrete. Give it time. Ant brains are like blueprints. Messy at first, but you redraw the lines. But time was a thief and Ethan was rebuilding without him. Discharged after 10 days, Ethan moved into a sublet in the financial district, closer to his firm, Hargrove and Associates. The gleaming office tower in Phi D where he clawed his way from junior drafter to partner. Anthony haunted the lobby like a ghost, delivering care packages of Ethan's favorites. Black coffee from Devotion, the protein shakes he blended obsessively for his CrossFit mornings. The receptionist, a drag queen named Ruby who'd performed at their commitment ceremony, slipped him updates. Honey, he's sketching again, but he asks about that guy from the accident. Like you're some rando who saved his life. Gratitude, not love. Anthony swallowed it like bad medicine, volunteering at the Stonewall archives to fill the void, sorting faded photos of men who'd loved fiercely in a world that hated them back. He'd traced their faces, wondering if any had lost their partners to something as banal as a car wreck. One evening, rain sluicing the windows like tears, Mia dragged him to a support group in the West Village, Queer Amnesia Allies, a circle of folding chairs in a community center basement, lit by string lights that flickered like faulty wiring. There, amid sniffles and shared IPAs, Anthony spilled it all. The accident, the blank stare, the way Ethan's laugh, once a thunderclap in their kitchen, now echoed from afar, pieced from voicemails Mia relayed. Then came the gut punch. Mia's call at 2 a.m., her voice thick with bourbon. Aunt, you gotta see this. Ethan's firm holiday party pics are up on Insta. Anthony's stomach roiled as he scrolled. The grid a gallery of betrayal. There was Ethan, arms slung around a broad-shouldered stranger. Blonde, all-American, with a jaw like a Doric column and eyes that screamed trust fund surfer. The caption, rediscovering NYC with the best tour guide a guy could ask for. Cheers to new chapters at Jackson Reeves. Jackson Reeves, it turned out, was a landscape architect from L.A., poached by Ethan's firm for a waterfront project in Battery Park. They'd met in PT, bonding over rehab exercises, and now, coffee dates in Tribeca, sunset walks along the promenade, Ethan's hand, that hand, brushing Jackson's like it was the most natural line in the world. Anthony hurled his phone across the room, screen cracking like his resolve. He stormed out into the night, boots splashing puddles that reflected the garish glow of bodega signs. 5 blocks to the river, where he and Ethan had scattered Mia's ex's ashes after her overdose. Queer losses piling up like unpaid bills. He screamed into the wind, the words ripping free. You were mine! 5 fucking years, and he picks him. A jogger veered wide, earbuds in, oblivious to the unraveling man on the bench. Anthony's sobs came in waves, crashing harder than Hurricane Sandy had on their first anniversary beach trip to Fire Island. Betrayal wasn't just the forgetting. It was the rebuilding on ruins that were still his. But dawn crept in, gray and unforgiving, and with it, a fragile resolve. He'd fight for the man he loved, not with pleas or packages, but by showing Ethan the blueprint of their life, line by line, starting with the loft. Their loft, sublet now but still humming with ghosts. The exposed brick walls Ethan had designed shelves for, the king bed where they'd mapped each other's bodies like sacred sites. Anthony would invite him there under the guise of closing out the lease, and let the space do the talking. It had to work, because if it didn't, Anthony didn't know if he could draw a new chapter without erasing himself entirely. The elevator to the loft creaked like an old confession, depositing Anthony on the 5th floor with a ding that mocked his pounding heart. He'd spent the morning scrubbing, frenetically, like a crime scene tech erasing evidence, polishing the oak floors until they gleamed like the Hudson at high tide, fluffing the throw pillows on the Eames sofa where Ethan used to sprawl, sketching while Anthony read Kerouac aloud. Mia had helped, her tool belt clinking as she fixed a loose cabinet door, muttering, "This place is a time capsule, Aunt. It's gonna hit him like a sledgehammer." Now, alone, Anthony paced the open-plan space, the floor-to-ceiling windows framing the Manhattan skyline like a postcard from a life unlived. He texted Ethan that morning. "Hey, it's the guy from the accident. Landlord needs the keys back. Mind if I swing by to grab a few things?" The reply had been polite, detached. "Sure, 7 p.m. works. Buzz me up." 7 sharp, the intercom buzzed, and Anthony's breath hitched. He buzzed Ethan in, then retreated to the kitchen island, gripping a beer bottle like a lifeline. Footsteps ascended the stairs, slow, deliberate, the tap of Italian leather on wood that Anthony knew by heart. And there he was, filling the doorway. Ethan, leaner from the hospital stay but still 6'2" of quiet intensity. In a crisp chambray shirt rolled to the elbows, khakis hugging his hips like a second skin. His eyes swept the room, cataloging. Always cataloging, the architect's curse. Landing on Anthony with that same wary flicker. Anthony, right? From the crash. Ethan's handshake was firm, professional. The kind he reserved for clients pitching eco-towers in Soho. No warmth, no spark. Thanks for meeting here. Place is nice. Mid-century vibes with industrial edge. Good bones. Anthony forced a laugh. Brittle as autumn leaves crunching underfoot in Prospect Park. Yeah, I picked it for the light. Sits perfect on the river. He gestured vaguely, leading Ethan inside. The air thick with the scent of fresh basil from the windowsill herb garden they'd planted on a whim after binging Queer Eye. Beer? Or whiskey? You always said Macallan chased away design block. Ethan paused, brow furrowing like a crease in vellum. Whiskey sounds good. How'd you know? He accepted the glass, clinking it against Anthony's with a nod that screamed obligation. They settled on the sofa, the leather sighing under their weight, and Anthony dove in careful, like laying foundation stones. Look, Ethan, I get it. The doc said your short-term memory's shot, long-term's selective. But we weren't strangers. 5 years, man. We met at that AIA happy hour in the meatpacking district. You spilled Merlot on my chucks, called them postmodern casualties. Laughed like it was the end of the world. Anthony's voice softened, pulling up the memory like a cherished Polaroid. Ethan's apologies tumbling out amid the thump of indie electronica. Their hands brushing as he dabbed at the stain, electricity crackling brighter than the club's strobe lights. Ethan sipped, eyes distant, swirling the amber like a troubled sea. Sounds familiar, like a dream I half remember, but it's fuzzy and like trying to read blueprints through fogged glass. He leaned forward, elbows on knees, that intensity sharpening. Tell me more. What were we? Friends? More. The question hung, a beam threatening collapse. Anthony's throat tightened, the truth a load-bearing wall. More. Boyfriends. Partners. The real deal, leases in both names, health proxies, the works. We built this life, Ethan. Fought for it when your folks in Savannah cut you off for coming out. When my Catholic guilt had me ghosting for a month after law school graduation. He slid closer, not touching God. Not yet. But close enough to feel the heat radiating off Ethan's skin. Familiar as summer asphalt in the Mission District during their road trip to SF. Ethan's gaze dropped to his hands, fingers tracing the glass rim. Shit, that sounds heavy. And now I'm blank, like I wiped the hard drive. A ghost of a smile tugged his lips. Their smile, the one that crinkled his eyes like sun on slate. You're a lawyer, huh? Figures. All that structure. Anthony seized it, the thread of connection. Corporate drone by day, your personal muse by night. Remember that pavilion in the High Line? The one with the cantilevered walkway. I bitched about the wind tunnel effect until you tweaked it. Added those privacy screens shaped like abstract hearts. He stood, pulling Ethan toward the drafting table in the corner, still cluttered with yellow pads and T-squares. Flipping open a sketchbook, Anthony revealed the heart of it. Pages of their life doodled in margins. 2 stick figures under a rainbow arch labeled Pride 22. A loopy Marry Me? Scrawled in Ethan's looping script beside a floor plan. Ethan's breath caught, fingers hovering over the paper like it might burn. I drew this. His voice was a whisper, wonder laced with ache. For a heartbeat, Anthony dared hope. The old Ethan surfacing, piecing himself back. Then the buzzer shattered it. Mia, early for her casual drop by. Her key turning in the lock before Anthony could protest. She breezed in, tool belt slung low on her hips like a gunslinger. Red hair a wild halo under the Edison bulbs. Hey boys, brought Ty from Uncle Boone's. Pad CW, extra egg, just like. She froze, reading the room, her engineer's eye clocking the tension. Oh, shit, bad time. Ethan straightened, the vulnerability shuddering like a storm window. Mia? Wait, you're the contractor on the battery project, right? Jax mentioned you. Jax. The name landed like a misplaced beam, buckling Anthony's knees. Ethan's face lit up, actually lit, the way it used to for Anthony's bad puns. Small world. He's been showing me around, great guy. Knows every hidden speakeasy from here to the Bowery. Mia's eyes darted to Anthony, apology flashing like hazard lights. Yeah, Jax is solid. Salt of the earth. She thrust the takeout bag at Ethan, steering him toward the kitchen with tales of rebar yields and zoning variances. The safe harbor of shop talk. Anthony trailed, numb, watching as Ethan unpacked containers with easy grace, laughing at Mia's impression of a picky inspector, a laugh that once echoed only for him. Dinner stretched, the three of them around the island like a fractured family portrait, chopsticks clacking over stories Anthony supplied. Their trip to the Grand Canyon, where Ethan proposed sketching slot canyons at dawn, the holiday in Provincetown, dancing shirtless on the dunes to Chapel Roan remixes. Ethan listened, nodding, fragments flickering in his eyes like fireflies. Gone too quick. But when Mia mentioned the accident, Ethan's fork paused midair. The other driver, DUI, right? Cop said he walked away without a scratch. World's fucked. Poetic justice deferred. Anthony murmured, the lawyer in him surfacing. But inside, rage simmered. Not at the drunk, but at fate's cruel draft, erasing him while leaving Ethan intact for another. As the night wound down, Ethan lingered by the door, jacket slung over his shoulder. Thanks for this, Ant. A lot, but good. Like finding lost elevations in an old file. His hand brushed Anthony's arm, electric, accidental, and for a split second time folded. Ethan leaned in, not kissing, but close, breath mingling. We were good together, weren't we? Anthony's heart seized. The best. He held Ethan's gaze, willing the memory to stick. Then Ethan's phone chimed, Jax, texting a late-night skyline pic from the rooftop bar at One Hotel Brooklyn Bridge. Missed you tonight. Beers tomorrow? Ethan's thumb hovered, then typed. Absolutely. On my way. He pulled back, sheepish grin flashing. Tour guide duties call. Night, guys. The door clicked shut, and Anthony slid to the floor, Mia crouching beside him, her hand on his back like an anchor. He's trying, Ant. But that Jax. They're moving fast. Like, fast. Anthony nodded, tears hot on his cheeks. Fast as a falling beam. The loft felt cavernous now, echoes mocking him. He'd shown Ethan their foundation, but the man was already building elsewhere, on sand, with someone new. And as the city lights twinkled beyond the glass, Anthony wondered if love, like architecture, could withstand a total rebuild, or if he'd have to learn to live in the shadows of what was. Winter clamped down on New York like a vice, the kind that squeezed the air from your lungs and turned the streets into wind tunnels rivaling Ethan's highline flaw. Anthony buried himself in motions, billable hours at the firm in Midtown, drafting cease and desists for tech bros who'd trademarked woke as if it were a font. But the nights? They were war zones, replaying that almost kiss in the loft like a glitchy Vimeo loop, Ethan's breath a ghost on his skin. Mia kept him afloat, dragging him to underground queer raves in abandoned warehouses off the G train, where bass thumped like a second pulse and bodies blurred into anonymity. Dance it out, like Grey's but gayer, she'd yell over the synth, her hands on his hips guiding him through the crowd. But even there, amid the glitter sweat and stolen kisses from faceless strangers, Anthony's eyes scanned for Blueprint Blue. Ethan, meanwhile, was a social media specter, posts trickling in like demo dust. Him and Jax at the Nui Gallery, toasting Klimps with craft Negronis. A shirtless gym selfie from Equinox in Flatiron, Jax's arm draped casual possessive over his shoulders, captioned gains and grins rebuild mode. Anthony stalked from incognito tabs at the office, masochistic as picking at a scab, each like a fresh cut. Their friendship, if you could call it that, limped on. Coffee meetups where Anthony fed Ethan more crumbs of their past. Like the time they'd eloped to City Hall in matching seersucker suits. Judge Ramirez officiating with a wink and a, "You two clean up nice." Ethan would lean in, hungry for the puzzle pieces, but always Jax's shadow loomed. Texts interrupting, plans derailing. "Sorry, man." Jackson scored tickets to Hamilton. Rain check? Rain check turned to blizzard delay when Valentine's hit, that hallmark hellscape amplified for couples in a city of one-bedrooms. Anthony holed up in the loft. He'd renewed the lease, couldn't bear subletting their sanctuary. Nursing a bottle of view from the corner deli, the cork popping like a gunshot. Mia burst in at midnight, bearing heart-shaped pizzas from Rubirosa and a bottle of Tito's. No pity party solo, mister. We're toasting to us, the survivors. They sprawled on the rug, fairy lights twinkling like distant stars, spilling secrets over slices greasy with optimism. You know, Mia slurred, her head on Anthony's shoulder. Ethan called me today. Asked about you. Said you're the real deal. Whatever that means in Amnesia Land. Anthony's buzz sharpened to a knife edge. When? After PT. Jax bailed, flu or some shit, and Ethan sounded lost, like he misses the you he can't remember. She propped up on an elbow, green eyes fierce. Fight for it, Aunt. Not with breadcrumbs. With the whole damn bakery. So he did. The next week, Anthony cornered Ethan at the firm. Barged into a lunch meeting at Parm, the red-sauced haven in Nolita where they'd once split meatballs like lovers sharing sins. Ethan was there with the team, blueprints unrolled over prosciutto panini. But he spotted Anthony in the doorway and waved him over, chair scraping like an invitation. Aunt, pull up, we're hashing the waterfront redesign. Your timing's impeccable. The table buzzed. Interns nodding, Jax at Ethan's elbow, his surfer grin all teeth and no depth. Anthony swallowed bile, sliding into the booth, knees brushing Ethan's under the formica. Actually came to steal you. Walk with me? 5 minutes. His voice was steady, the lawyer's poise masking the quake. Ethan hesitated, glancing at Jax, who clapped his shoulder with bro-code ease. Go on, boss. I got the elevations. Outside, the February slush sucked at their boots, steam rising from manhole covers like unspoken tensions. They wandered to Sarah D. Roosevelt Park, benches slick with melt, the air sharp with pretzel vendors and distant sirens. Talk to me, Ethan said, zipping his peacoat against the bite. You've got that look, like you're cross-examining a witness. Anthony halted under a bare oak, branches clawing the sky like desperate hands. Because I am. Of you, Ethan. Of us. It's been months, and you're building this new life. With him. Like I'm just a footnote. The words cracked free, raw as the wind. I loved you. Love you. 5 years of blueprints and blowjobs, fights and forgiveness. And yeah, you forgot. But I'm right here handing you the eraser marks, the revisions. Why fight it when Jax is so easy? Ethan's face crumpled. Not blank but burdened, snowflakes catching in his lashes like unshed tears. God, Aunt, it's not that simple. Jackson. He's safe. No history to unpack, no weight. With you, it's like staring at a half-finished model, beautiful, but missing pieces I can't find. He stepped closer, gloved hand cupping Anthony's jaw, thumb tracing the stubble like a draftsman's line. I feel it, though. Pulls at me, like muscle memory. Anthony leaned into the touch, heart thundering. Then let it pull. Come home. To the loft, to me. We redraw together. His lips brushed Ethan's palm, salt and leather, a plea wrapped in desperation. For a breath, Ethan softened, eyes closing as if chasing echoes. Then his phone vibrated. Jax. Again. Wrap soon? Got that vintage scotch waiting. Ethan's hand dropped, the spell shattering. I can't. Not yet. Jackson. He's been my anchor through the fog. Regret laced his voice, but resolve hardened it. Give me time, Aunt. Please. Time. The thief again. Anthony nodded, numb, watching Ethan retreat into the deli for the team, silhouette swallowed by steam. Back at the office, he drafted emails on autopilot, but his mind sketched revenge. Petty human. Anonymous tips to Jax's exes or worse, confronting the golden boy himself. Instead, he channeled it into action. That night, at the group's basement meeting, he shared the almost moment, the circle murmuring empathy like incantations. An older man, silver-haired and widowed twice over, pulled him aside after. Love's not a contract, kid. Sometimes you gotta let the structure fail to see what's load-bearing. The advice fermented as spring teased the city. Cherry blossoms unfurling in the garden like pink promises. Anthony threw himself into a pro bono case, defending a trans kid evicted from his Bronx walk-up. The courtroom battles a balm for his own fractures. Mia linked him with a therapist, Dr. Reyes, a no-nonsense Latina with an office overlooking the UN, who dissected his grief like a site plan. Amnesia's not betrayal, Anthony. It's loss, for both of you. Grieve the man he was, but meet the one he is now. Meeting him meant facing Jax. It happened organically, almost cruelly. A firm mixer at the Dead Rabbit, whiskey flights and networking schmoozes in the financial district's Irish haze. Anthony went for Ethan, but found himself cornered at the bar by the blonde interloper, Jax's easy charm masking shark eyes. "So, you're the ex?" Jax drawled, nursing a Guinness, his LA tan clashing with the pub's peat smoke. "Ethan mentions you. Hero shit from the crash." Anthony's grip tightened on his pint. "Not ex-amnesia doesn't divorce." The words slurred slightly, third round, but truth sobered them. Jax chuckled, low and oily. "Look, dude, I get it. But he's moved on. We're good, simple. No baggage." He leaned in, voice dropping. "And between us, he doesn't ask about you in bed. Just says your name once, like a hiccup, then it's over." The punch landed harder than words. Visceral, eviscerating. Anthony's vision tunneled, fist clenching before reason rebarred it. He shoved back from the bar, weaving through suits and laughter, bursting into the alley where the city's pulse thrummed. Garbage trucks rumbling, rats skittering like doubts. Vomit rose, bitter as betrayal, and he retched into the shadows, the revelation clawing his gut. Ethan, in another man's arms, whispering his name like a curse. He didn't see Ethan that night, slipped out before the toast, but the seed of conflict sprouted thorns. Days later, a package arrived at the loft. Ethan's old sketchbook, the one from their proposal, FedExed with a note. "Found this in storage. Pieces clicking. Dinner?" Hope flickered, fragile as a first pour. But as Anthony traced the "Marry Me," he wondered if the structure could hold, or if the high winds of truth would topple it all. The dinner was at L'Artusi in the village, that west side nook where twinkle lights danced on white linen like fireflies in a mason jar, and the air hummed with the sizzle of branzino and whispered proposals. Anthony arrived early, palms damp as he smoothed his Oxford shirt, the blue one Ethan once called "Ocean Eyes in Cotton." The sketchbook burned in his messenger bag, a talisman against the what-ifs. Ethan slid in 10 minutes late, apologetic flush on his cheeks, hair windswept from the cab ride over the cobblestones. "Traffic on the West Side Highway nightmare," he said, but his eyes snagged on Anthony's, holding longer than polite, a current humming beneath the surface. They ordered octopus carpaccio to start, the tentacles curling like questions on the plate, and Anthony laid it out, the book open between them like a confessional. "You sent this," said. "Pieces are clicking." His fork speared a slice, but his appetite had fled to wherever forgotten loves went. Ethan's fingers traced the margins, lingering on the stick figure pride doodle. "Yeah, nightmares mostly, flashes of the crash, then, you, yelling my name, blood on your shirt." He swallowed, Adam's apple bobbing like a plumb line. "Woke up sweating, hard as hell, dreaming your hands on me. Felt wrong, with Jackson asleep beside." The admission hung, seismic, cracking the evening's facade. Anthony's pulse roared. Wrong how? Like cheating on a ghost. Ethan's voice dropped, intimate amid the clink of glasses. "I've been piecing it, therapy, hypnosis bullshit that costs more than my student loans. Remember the Grand Canyon? That red rock at dawn. You on one knee with a ring made from a beer cap." His laugh was watery, eyes glistening under the pendant lamps. "Came to me mid-sketch today. Jackson was there, but it was you I saw." Relief flooded Anthony, warm as Chianti, but laced with dread. The high before the drop. "Then come back. Ditch the sublet, the safety net. We rebuild. Therapy together, dates like new but better." He reached across, lacing fingers with Ethan's, the calluses familiar as home. Ethan squeezed, then released, gaze dropping to the tablecloth. "I want to. God and I do. But Jax, he's not just a rebound. He knows the new me, the blank slate. And last week he asked me to move in. Tribeca loft, views of the Woolworth building. Said it's our future." The world tilted, silverware rattling in Anthony's vision. You said yes. The question was a whisper, but it boomed like thunder over the Hudson. Not yet. Told him I needed space to integrate. Ethan's eyes pleaded, storm blue and stormy. But he's pushing, Aunt. And part of me, the scared part, wants easy. You're the storm I can't weather alone. Dinner devolved into dessert untouched, the tiramisu curdling in Anthony's throat. They parted on the sidewalk, Ethan's hug fierce but fleeting, a goodbye masquerading as goodnight. Anthony walked home through the village's queer heartbeat. Drag queens hawking roses outside Stonewall, laughter spilling from therapy bar. Each step a nail in the coffin of hope. Back in the loft, he poured bourbon neat, scrolling Jax's feed until the glow blurred. Them at MoMA, hands intertwined before Van Gogh's Starry Night. A beach day in Coney, Ethan shirtless and smiling, the cyclone looming like fate's cruel ride. The breaking point came at dawn, phone shattering the silence. Mia, hysterical. Aunt, hospital. Ethan's firm project, scaffolding collapse at the site. Battery park. He's hurt. Bad. Anthony was out the door before the words landed. Hailing a cab through the waking city, horns blaring like accusations. The ER was a déjà vu nightmare. Beeps and bleach, doctors murmuring in huddles. Mia met him in the hall, mascara streaked, tool belt dusty from the scene. Scaffolding buckled, wind gust, they say. Jax was there, pulled Ethan out. But a beam clipped his head. Concussion again. Worse. Anthony shoved past. Into the room where Ethan lay, bandaged and broken, monitors a dirge. Jax sat vigil, hand on Ethan's, his surfer comm cracked with fear. He looked up, eyes red-rimmed. He asked for you. Before they sedated. Get Anthony. Need to tell him. The words hollowed Anthony. A void where love had been. He took Ethan's hand, cold, limp, whispering litanies of their life. The first fight over takeout Thai. Make-up sex on the fire escape. The vow under Christmas lights in Rockefeller Plaza. Snowflakes melting on lashes. Jax watched, silent, then slipped out, leaving the space sacred. Ethan stirred at twilight, eyes fluttering open. Not blank, but burdened, tears tracking salt paths. Aunt, I remember, all of it. The accident it jarred loose, like shaking a snow globe. His voice cracked, fingers tightening. I'm sorry, for forgetting, for Jax, for breaking us. Anthony's sob escaped, raw and redemptive. You're here. That's the line that holds. But Ethan shook his head, wincing. No, I chose him today. Texted yes before the sight. The loft, the future. It's his now. The confession landed like the beam that felled him, crushing. I love you, always will. But the man I am post-crash? He needs new foundations. You deserve the one who remembers every brick. Betrayal's final twist, not amnesia, but choice. Anthony recoiled, the monitors spiking in echo. You fell for him, after everything. Fell? Or landed softer? Ethan's eyes, clear now, held no malice, only human frailty, the architect's precision yielding to life's imperfect angles. Forgive me, Aunt, build something true. Nurses bustled in, Jax trailing like a shadow reclaimed, and Anthony fled, corridors a blur, city lights streaking like comets. He ended at the Brooklyn Bridge, winds whipping the East River into froth, the skyline a testament to reinvention. There, amid tourists snapping selfies, he grieved. Not just the loss, but the love that endured, scarred but standing. Months later, summer baked the asphalt, and Anthony walked the High Line. Ethan's pavilion complete, glass walls refracting sun into rainbows. A plaque read, dedicated to lost lines, redrawn stronger. He traced it, smiling faint, Mia at his side, her arm linked with a new girl's. Ethan? Word was he'd moved west with Jax, LA lofts and palm-shaded promises. Anthony? He dated, a barista with laugh lines and no blueprints, but carried the 5 years like rebar in his spine. Bent but unbowed. In the queer calculus of New York, love wasn't eternal arches but resilient spans, bridging gaps, weathering storms. Anthony crossed the walkway, wind at his back, stepping into the light. Not whole but human, not forgotten but free.